Every week, churches, foundations, families, and nonprofits across America collect millions for missions. Clean water, orphan care, evangelism, disaster relief, sustainability projects. But what happens when that money leaves the country? Many great people are doing wonderful things around the world to help the hurting and the needy. But many times, somewhere between the donor's check and digging the village well, the oversight disappears. Receipts are forged, funds get redirected, and everybody keeps smiling for the newsletter. Today we're talking about the uncomfortable truth. The money meant for ministry often feeds a broken system, and we, the givers, are part of the problem. I'm Todd Turner, and with me today is my friend and partner, Jason Miller. Together, we've seen the best and worst of global generosity, from the boardrooms of foundations and nonprofits to the villages of Africa. Today we're unpacking why good intentions aren't enough and how to fix it.
First, thank you, Todd. It's great to have you at my house, and looking forward to visiting with you about this. It's a very important topic that is overlooked. So I've been working off and on since 1996 in East Africa. My first opportunity to work there was when I was backpacking across Kenya, Tanzania, and I started working with the Catholic diocese in Moshi, Tanzania. And little did I know at the time, but my job for them was importing fax machines and computers from Texas, Texas, to Tanzania to help them.
Okay, and so when did you know there's a problem? Because I'm assuming the first time anybody travels abroad and goes on, whether it's a mission trip or even just whether it be a safari or whatever the reason you're there, there's clearly opportunities to help. And so where along the way did you realize, wait a minute, this system feels broken?
You know what? I must admit that I was quite naive in the beginning. And, I think Americans especially and foreign travelers going to these places, they want to help. And when someone comes to you and says, hey, would you be willing to help us do this or do that? We're willing to do so. So, I would say it was many years until I realized that I was kind of feeding a perpetual need that was not going away.
Sometimes it takes years or decades. You finally realize, am I throwing money in a pit?
Right.
And what causes the pit? So let's talk about that. I think somebody interested in this topic probably already knows there's a problem, or they wouldn't even be listening.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I hate using this analogy, but I feel like it fits. Don't feed the bears. That idea, like, why not feed bears? Because when you feed them, they don't have to hunt for themselves because they know the tourists are coming. Yep. And isn't it almost the same problem with certain cultures and countries?
Most definitely. And I think we're to blame, that Western society is to blame mainly because, starting at a young age, and I'm going to speak about East Africa, for example, because I do a lot of work there. Children from a very young age are ingrained with when the Westerner comes, there's going to be some sort of a free gift or a handout. And it starts with the good-hearted ladies and young people that will bring a bag of candy, for example. Right. Pull up into a village. I see this often, throwing candy out on the ground, kids running and get it in the, scrambling in the dirt to get this candy. And what's that? That is teaching these kids that when they see a Western or a white face or someone from a more developed country than they are, there's going to be free stuff. And sadly, that continues on as they grow older, all the way up to the government and top officials in these countries who, instead of solving, for example, a water crisis, it's easier for them to just sit back and let the NGOs do it.
Yeah, so it's not just churches, tourists, it's even up to the government level. We throw, I'm going to use the word, the royal we, the West, throws hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars into most all the countries over, and at least Africa, at least, right?
Yes. Yeah, many of them we do. And you would be surprised how over time, I call it a charity mindset, sits in, and it's easier to ask for money than to work for money.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yeah, and until it's cut off,
Mm-hmm.
you have no incentive.
Right.
And it's a horrible. I hate this phraseology, but it's just true. Like if, and I'm gonna pick on pastors for a minute. There, if they find a church to sponsor them, it's like winning the lottery.
Oh, it is. It's winning the lottery.
It's winning the lottery, and they know they're set, which means they go to extra lengths to convince
Yep.
and keep the money flowing,
Of course.
which leads to even good people doing what we would call questionable things to keep the money flowing.
Oh yes. I speak with many churches and pastors who tell me, well, we are partners with I'll use an example with a pastor in Uganda, and every month there's a need, every month, and a new laptop, new phone, and it will continue indefinitely, and it's like you said, it's hitting the lottery for them, and once they get in good with some sort of contact in the West, sadly, instead of attempting or trying to wean themselves off of that foreign aid, they'll figure out reasons to continue.
So let me ask you this question. So let's say, I mean, we're not here to say everybody's full in the system.
Right.
I mean, it's not true. Everybody is,
Mm-mm.
but it is true that when you get your lifestyle set, it's hard to walk away from the money. So let's
Right.
say whatever your thing is, and I'd love you to get some real world examples here, but I have this soup kitchen, or I'm helping kids off the street, or I'm whatever it is. They know they have to do more of that to get money, but the reality is once the mission team goes home, are they as motivated to actually do the work that they say they do?
Well, it's hard to say simply because I'm not there all the time. I spend a lot of time in Africa and South America, and I spend a lot of time visiting different nonprofits, Christian and otherwise. And of course, most of the time when I arrive or a team arrives, it's staged, for us. And of course it is. They're going to have everything set up to show us the very best face. Not necessarily being deceitful, but sometimes
It's your best foot forward.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And sometimes that means character actors.
Right.
Because they'll bring in their
Oh,
friends, they'll bring in their sisters or whatever, even kids, to show, look at all we're doing. And that's not what it's like
Right.
52 weeks out of the year.
Correct.
And what I call it is when they wear, if you have anybody coming over and they're all wearing the same t-shirts, like you're coming over in the group,
Right.
that's when they turn it up to 11. But when you and I go, we don't see the same activities going on
Right.
as the donor sees.
One time I was doing a analysis on a nonprofit in Uganda, and it was in the very rural part of Uganda, and it was I believe it's a Colorado based nonprofit, and very small, and it's farming. And so we were going to go and do analysis on this because a gentleman I knew was going to be donating a large sum of money to this organization. So we show up, and the people leading us around, the giving us the show, were stalling, and we kept sitting on the side of the road as we were on the way to their farm.
Okay.
And finally, we're like, okay, we're on a very tight schedule. We need to get over there and see what we're going to see. Well, what it was is they were rounding up people and their hose and their equipment to be there on site working that farm.
For the photo op.
For the photo op.
Yeah.
So when we arrived, we asked, so where are your water treatment area or water storage? Oh, it's over here. No water in it. Okay, well, where's your crops? Oh, well, all of a sudden we start getting the line of why,
If we had more money, we'd fix it.
Yeah, right. But what's interesting is I see many people go over that are supporting me, and they'll just believe whatever they're told. Oh, well, it's a drought right now, so.
Well, that guy's a good guy. He's a pastor.
Yeah,
He's telling me
right.
this happened. I believe him.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily that they're lying. I want to interject this here, and I'd love, more about this than I do. But different cultures throughout time have different things that are the most important.
Mm-hmm.
And like to Romans, it was law.
Mm-hmm.
Truth doesn't matter. I mean,
Right.
law matters.
Right.
Well, in certain countries, especially third world, survival matters. It's
Yes.
the trump card. And when you have money, you're allowed to tell a white lie, and they don't even see it as a problem because it's like, well, I have to do what I have to do to survive.
Right.
So I can tell a white lie. That's no harm, no foul.
Well, and also, mainly in East Africa, some of the tribal, just historically, these people tell you exactly what you want to hear, and they don't believe that it's a lie. So, for
No,
example,
okay.
you ask somebody, what's going on with this project? Oh, this project is going great. There's nothing to worry about. We'll be done on time, and and there's no reality to that whatsoever.
Right.
But they don't believe it's a lie because they're telling you
What you want to hear.
what you're wanting to hear.
Yeah.
And I,
Which is respectful.
it's a respect. I've spent hours, thousands of hours talking with people that are saying, listen, just tell me the truth, even if it's bad news, because it's easier for me to explain to somebody, hey, we hit a snag here. And this is the true problem.
Yeah.
Instead of telling me that everything is going fine until I show up and find out nothing is going fine.
Right.
And
which they would tell you tomorrow it'll be fine.
Yeah, and to me it's fun. It's neat. It's exciting working and trying to understand different culture and different business practices and the way other people do things. I relish that, but it doesn't mesh well with the Western way of doing things,
Right.
and it creates problems.
It's really interesting. There's so many levels and layers of this conversation. I would say maybe you know when this happened, but there's a point when even naive donors finally say, "Huh, I'm tired of throwing money in. Maybe I'll give to sustainability." Meaning, if I'll help them where they don't have to ask me for more. Well, somewhere along the way, I know for sure in Africa, it sustainability became the buzzword because they realized, oh, they want us to be sustainable, and so we've spent more money on the sustainable stuff that's not sustainable.
And it's funny. Buzzwords are the big thing over there, and really all over the world. So, for example, I'll walk in and meet with an NGO that says does water type projects, and within 10 minutes of talking to him, water is life, quote unquote, is stated. And I chuckle because water is life is probably one of the most commonly used buzzwords. Sustainability is another one. Or women's empowerment is another one over there.
Right.
And, here's the thing. All three of those things are good things. Sustainability is good, water is good, and women empowerment's good. But when it's used as a buzzword and with nothing backing it,
they know that somebody will give $1 to that.
Oh, yes.
And once they know, so let's tell some stories. Like I know of cases of hey, we need $100,000, $200,000, whatever the number is. We need to build up solar power, whatever, the well. And then you come back and it's like, well, it's not built.
Right.
It's like, well, sometimes it is built, but it's empty.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, well, what happened? Well, this ripped.
Right.
We need to repair it.
Right.
And then it's always this, it never, and I'm going to use the word, I don't like never, but rarely pays for itself.
Yeah.
That they could have just used the money, and we have all these broken wells, empty farmhouses, empty dreams, empty hospitals, and because we all thought we're doing good, and it's not doing good. Like there's so many broken ministries, there's broken nonprofits that we just keep pouring money, and it's doing more harm than good.
It goes back to that charity mindset way of thinking. If there's no ownership, just like a child here, if I buy my child a car at 16 years old, a brand new car, they don't have a vested ownership or interest in maintaining that car.
Yeah.
Same thing over there. there are wells drilled all over Africa. I mean, the well drilling nonprofits are very, very well funded, and they're all over the place. The problem therein lies with either not doing research in the beginning and cultural research, which we'll touch on in a bit, or drilling the well, taking the pictures, everybody's happy, walking away.
Yeah.
And then the pump breaks, and since there was no vested ownership in the beginning, hey, we need another NGO to come fix this pump, or we're just going back to hauling water from the river.
Or until the next guy comes and digs another one right beside it.
Yes.
Because they want to spend their money and do their good, and no one owns the old well.
Right. And that's very common. Very common. I have seen some wells drilled down in Malawi, in the country of Malawi, that I think is pretty neat. They use a mechanical hand pumping apparatus as opposed to solar and electric, and they're very robust, and they seem to last indefinitely.
And you got to put some work into it.
But
I've
also gone into and seen the solar panel array set up in the inverter and the pump, and I've gone back 1 year later, half of it's stolen. The solar panels are off, powering a nightclub over here on this side of town. The pump is being used for parts for something else, and all the time.
Yeah.
And another interesting story that falls in line with the drilling of wells is one time down in the Maasai land in southern Kenya, southwestern Kenya, organization who will remain nameless went in. And they were doing surveys, and they were finding out the best place to drill wells, which is exactly what we would do here in this country. So they said, hey, this spot right here, the water table is at X depth. This is where we should drill. Everyone's like, okay. They drill the well. They didn't even realize they drilled that on someone's private land, of course, and then that person starts charging all the local people to use the well. So they
created an economy.
Yeah, our way of thinking would be that well would be for the whole community, but it instantly created a business opportunity for the landowner, and nobody benefited from the well.
Everybody takes the picture and goes home.
Yeah, and there's thousands of those stories.
I don't remember if you told me this story. I read it in a book or whatever, but I'm gonna throw it out here. It was about and I'm gonna get it wrong on purpose. That way I'm not plagiarizing. But let's just say it was a church that said, okay, because you get a new mission pastor, and he's going to bend the church to his experience, right?
Right.
So they're like, oh, well, we want to remove the funding or where it was. Well, that's a problem. When you pour into somewhere and pour it away, that creates a whole mess.
A void there, yes.
And then they moved over, and they wanted to help with eggs. So they went into the community, and they built an egg, like they invested into an egg processing plant or something. They're going to give away eggs. Give away.
Right.
Well, there was an egg farmer there who was making a living. They put him out of business.
Right.
They're giving away eggs. Well, then one day they got a new mission pastor. He stops that. They move on to another dig well somewhere else, and now that community has no eggs because they killed the guy who was making a living, thinking they were doing good.
Right.
And you're not doing good.
No, you're not doing good. You're doing more damage than good. Yeah. And a perfect example of that I saw also, I believe, in Malawi, was some ladies at a church in Malawi, local ladies, got involved with an American NGO somehow and said, hey, we want to start a business or something. So the American NGO put their brains or their minds together and said, hey, let's send them over an embroidery machine, those machines that embroider hats and stuff. So these ladies, and they can make for the school the uniforms for the school.
Okay.
So they send this equipment over, set these ladies up in a business, and they do all their school uniforms. So guess what? They've got equipment now, so they start doing all the uniforms for all the schools in the area, and put probably 50 ladies that sewed these uniforms out of business.
Yeah.
All because of their connections.
They're helping a couple people.
Yes,
and murdering the economy everywhere else.
And I mean, we can touch on and God bless this organization up in the Northwest that gives. You've heard them. I won't say their name, but for every pair of shoes you buy, they give two. Those type things are neat, but they're not taking into consideration the impact they have on the local economy.
Yeah.
And if I bring in a shipping container full of shoes, into an area, if it isn't stolen from me and sold by some government official or something like that, if I actually get it into the community and start giving away shoes, I've just put so many people out of business. In fact, it's immeasurable, the negative impact that had. And all it did is give a person a free pair of shoes, which, yes, you can argue is good, but...
You and I are not... We're not the boss of good works, okay? So I'm not acting like we have a solution. But I will say, I'd like your opinion. Like, it feels like there are cases where food, like when there's drought or when there's a civil war and you're misplaced, like, yeah, man, pour into these people.
Right.
But just to say, y'all can't figure it out, we're going to throw money in, that's so dangerous. Like, why do we need all the soup kitchens? Why do we need all the...
Well, it's insulting to them as well. You know, for us to sit there, and I've learned this the hard way. I'm a fixer. And you know, there's kind of a funny thing that I notice a lot in East Africa, and that is in new construction, I don't care if they're building a brand new building, they will not put a P-trap in to save their life in the plumbing.
Okay.
So every bathroom you go into smells like raw sewage because there's no trap there to, you know, what I'm talking about.
That'll stop the smell coming back up.
Right. And, you know, I can't tell you how many times I've said, why don't you guys put it? And I have to check myself because, you know, yes, I think that they should do that, and I don't see why they don't, because it would be a lot better as far as smelling things. But you know, I need to mind my own business and respect what they're doing. And you know, I think bottom line is we need to lift up the communities, create some, you know, help create opportunities for there to be job opportunities. And I'm not saying go and create jobs,
right?
Because that's also not our place, in my opinion. But the problem is there are no opportunity, and it starts at the top of these governments, you know, over there. Some better than others. You could have a country right next door to one that's flourishing and one that's not, and
it's policy and corruption is exactly the difference of those borderlines.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
So let's back up way up. So let's say we have somebody listening right now, and they're a donor, and you know there's going to be small donors and big donors that are listening. But let's just for those small, you think, oh well, I'm giving to a 501c3. Our 501c3s in America are sort of audited, right? Some of them are members of ECFA or GuideStar. Like what? That's not a solution because why not? Tell me why not.
You know what? I can't tell you how many times I've had people say, "Well, I've gone GuideStar, or you know, you got a 4-star rating, or somebody has a 5-star rating here, so it's good." Well, yeah, it's good. You know, it's audited on this side in the U.S., of course. You know, we know how many employees there are. We know the salaries of everybody. It's all
do what you say what you do. Yeah. And they check that.
Right, but one of the things that I've learned, sadly, and I find it sad, you know, for lack of a better word, is once the money leaves this country, there's no process in place. No. And unless the Western or the American-based part of whatever NGO is doing audits, which hopefully they are. Right. But when the money's gone, it's gone. When it's wired away, there's no telling what.
Well, it goes back to what we're saying at the beginning. The problem is that sometimes when you go, you're on that mission trip and you meet the pastor, you see the need, you're like, I'm giving to that. Sometimes it's your own eyeballs, which are deceiving because you're there when they're giving their best foot forward. And then you go home and you're like, well, let me look at the website. People, the website's not a good audit.
Right.
It's a website. It can say whatever it says. Whatever. Right. And that doesn't mean, because you've seen that, and I have too. People are like, oh, I give to this place. Well, why? Well, I've done my research. You're like, well, I know you haven't because I see the fraud. I've seen it.
Yeah.
And so there's no way you did it.
Well, and you can get to a point, you know, I've been doing this for a long time. You know, I could look at a website and just like you said, buzzwords. I mean, the first thing I look for is buzzwords. You and I at dinner tonight, we're looking at a website of somebody, and we were rudely picking it to death based on the things they were saying.
Because they know what brings in donations.
Yeah, they do,
Yeah.
but they also didn't have on there the backing of those phrases,
Claims.
claims.
That's
Yeah.
right. Show me.
Yeah.
Sustainability. Well,
Right.
Well,
Don't just say the word
is
sustainable.
it sustainable?
Right.
Is anybody checking? And if it's not, do you quit sending money?
And what is sustainable? We touched a little bit on damaging local business, but what is sustainable? And I'm gonna use an example that isn't tied to anyone I know. But
Okay.
for example, say someone wanted to start a fish farm,
Okay.
and so they raise money in a nonprofit way of raising, say, $500,000 to start this fish farm, and then they go and they open up this fish farm. And was that sustainable? And the answer is probably no, because it was made with donor money.
Yeah.
How do you compete? How does the fish farm down the street that had to actually build based off of profits,
Slow growth, and learn the hard way.
Exactly.
Right.
How do they compete with now the new fish farm that was brought in with NGO money,
Yeah.
that may or may not have the skill level to run a fish farm?
Yeah, who's the guy running it? He's never run one before.
Exactly. And I see so much of that happening, of good-willed Western thinking, hey, we can set this nonprofit up with their own quote-unquote business or opportunity to become sustainable by, and not only are they putting the people in place that really don't know anything about running a fish farm,
right?
But number two, they're damaging again all the local fish farmers there. It's really
well. So we'll go back on that. So when the email comes from the West saying, I need a picture for the newsletter, they'll go ask 4 or 5 kids to go stand around that fish farm with some poles, and they'll take their picture. But
right. Oh, sure.
But normal days, it's empty.
Well, it could be, or it could just be a failure in the sense of not being managed properly, or a lot of times. Okay, another example. Down in Namibia, Bushman tribe.
Yeah.
The Bushman people are truly the last, probably mainly untouched people still living traditional as they have for thousands of years.
Okay.
Really neat culture. They're hunter-gatherers. For thousands of years, that's how they've sustained themselves, hunting small game and gathering berries, nuts, roots, whatever.
Okay.
That's the way they live. An NGO from Europe came in and said, we need to create an opportunity for these people. We're going to build them.
These poor people.
These poor people, yes. We're going to build them a greenhouse so they can grow vegetables for themselves.
Because they need that.
Okay, so I don't know how much money was raised. Actually, I do. I believe it was 60,000 or so. It was a European country, so it's probably euros. And they went to Windhoek, Namibia, bought a bunch of stuff, built maybe a $5,000 greenhouse, and it was sitting empty when I was there. Why? The Bushmen don't grow crops.
They have no interest in it.
They have no interest in it.
Just because you told them you should
Right.
do this, like, well, my dad didn't, my granddad didn't, and my
Right.
kid's not gonna.
So is that impactful?
Yeah.
Another really funny example, and I don't know if I showed you a picture, but I showed somebody the other day. The same NGO thought the Bushmen, in case of an emergency or something, needed a car.
No way.
Yes. So they buy them this little Toyota car.
Okay.
And I was there in their village probably 2 years ago, and I'm like, what's the deal with this car? It was up, tires gone off of it, wheels stripped, but brand new sitting there.
Yeah.
No, they don't
Nobody
know how
ever
to drive.
turned it on. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't know how to drive, for one thing, and they don't need a car.
And where were they gonna go?
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Into the town, I guess, to
tell them,
right.
Let's walk back.
So, there's a car, and I have pictures of it because it was absolutely hilarious to me. Again, some lady or man somewhere gave money to a nonprofit thinking they're helping the Bushmen people by supplying them with a car. And I'm sure there was a big write-up as to why they needed a car or a greenhouse. Yeah. And no thought or studying no insight to their culture or what they're about even went into this process. Yeah. And here we are.
There's a definitely an arrogance of us seeing somebody and saying, "Oh, well, these poor people," and the answer is, "Well, this is billions of people are not rich like
Yeah.
Americans or Europeans or
Right.
whatever," and then we just sort of judge like, "Oh, well, they need our help." Well, that goes back to my argument. Yeah, when there's a civil war, yeah, when there's a drought, there are times that we should give a helping hand.
Right.
But otherwise, people need to find their own economy and live the way they live. Like, isn't that
Yeah.
okay?
Well, and let's stay on the Bushmen people, for example, because they're a perfect people group to. So I was there one time with a guy from California, and we went into the Bushman village. They live in mud huts. They're still nude for I mean, they're living way back.
Yeah.
And this guy went away. What can we do? Look at the way these people are living, and I said, what's wrong with the way they're living?
Yeah.
I mean, they
Yeah.
were perfectly content.
Yeah.
And quite healthy. So what we need to do as nonprofits and founders and donors is we need to simply ask the Bushmen, how can we help
Can we
you?
help you? Yeah.
And-
What
and
would
it-
make you feel
Yeah.
helped?
And,
Yeah.
and if they say no, leave them alone.
Yeah.
And if they say yes, and that's what we did, by the way. I interviewed actually quite a few of them over many years and said, what would help you? Okay, they don't want to be changed culturally. They don't want to jobs, but they want opportunity for their kids. They want schools for their kids and opportunities for them. I thought
Okay.
that's very interesting because they see the writing on the wall as we do in our culture.
Yeah.
Our kids are different than we are.
Yeah.
And their kids are too. And little Bushman kids are going to need an education or need that ability to survive in the future of Namibia.
Right.
That the parents are fine with being content the way they are right now. So another interesting thing that came up in those visits is the Bushmen. They're not a Bantu, or they're their own culture. They're not black Africans.
Yeah, right.
They're a culture of their own and a people group of their own, going back thousands of years. So they're even discriminated against in school, and their little stature. They're just precious people. So what we're finding is when they go to local public schools, the Bushman kids are pushed out quite quickly by the other kids.
Interesting.
So there is no opportunity. So bottom line is, with that particular project, was building private schools for Bushman communities, and it's a win. It's doing it right, in my opinion, because we're not trying to impose a Western view. We're simply going in, how can we serve you? How can we respect your culture?
Yeah.
Not throw in a Western perspective,
Yeah.
but how can we help? How can we serve?
Yeah.
And I like that.
So, if you don't mind, I've never asked you. I don't think I've ever asked you this question. We we dig a lot of wells, we feed, but what's up with schools? It feels like everybody's building a school, sending people to school, private school, public school,
Yeah.
schools. Are they like wells? Are they empty schools? Because we built another one 2 blocks away.
I think, this is a Western thing. It's a societal thing, and it's definitely something I hear as I travel around the world. And just my humble opinion, and people are going to go nuts over this, but I think it's false. And that is, education is the key. Education, education, education. I hate to break it to you, but in my opinion, education's not the key. Opportunity is the key.
Huh? Okay.
I can't tell you how many young people introduce themselves to me and and this is in Kenya, for example, I have a bachelor's degree in international commerce, they'll tell me. Well, what is that?
Yeah, what's that gonna do?
Oh, yeah, you can't even get a visa to leave the country, and you're in international commerce, or a bachelor's degree. And so many people have degrees, and they really value those degrees because they've been told for 40 years,
You just get a degree.
education is key. So, there needs to be opportunity. And we're seeing that in Kenya and Rwanda especially. Some of those Eastern African countries are they're not third world countries anymore. They're developing nations, and we're seeing investment from Microsoft and you know, Google and stuff like that. So the opportunity is starting to come. But man, it's kind of sad to put such an emphasis. Yes, education is important.
Well,
Don't get me
sure, yeah,
wrong.
right, but it's not the golden ticket.
Yes, and it is believed over there that it is the golden
Yeah.
ticket.
Well, we beat it in their heads.
Yeah.
That it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really interesting. Like last time I went to Nairobi, I was just looking around. It felt like Hong Kong. There was a crane on top of every
Yeah.
building.
A lot of
It's
buildings.
just growth. Like it's unbelievable.
Yes.
And I guess like America's a big place, but you have poverty and then you have penthouses, and it's the same as there.
Yeah.
Like sometimes there are some people who just don't know, and they think all of Africa is mud huts.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's not true.
No, definitely not. There's I used Rwanda as an example. Goodness gracious, what an amazing country.
Yeah.
You could walk across the whole country and not see a piece of trash on the ground.
Yeah.
And be safe doing it.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I guess I want to move to what's the solution, because you back to don't feed the bears. Well, if you stop feeding them, they haven't hunted in so long. How do you give accountability? How do you? Well, I'm gonna back before I ask that question. I'm gonna back up to something you told me the other day. Sometimes, you travel more than I do, but even in my travels, sometimes you meet somebody and you're like, that's a good soul doing good stuff. But if you go and don't raise money or donate to somebody, you can ruin their ministry by giving them too much money.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how do you judge not only where you put money, but how much you put in? And then how do you grade how's it going? How often do you check in with somebody to say, how's the ministry going? How do you need help? Why would I give you another $100,000?
Right. Well, what I see happening a lot is ministries or nonprofits grow, and they get to a point where they're so large and it's kind of feeding this big machine. And like, for example, in Kenya, there's probably 4 or 5 very large, very, very large, probably 50 million plus privately ran ministries, Kenyan-based, that are just huge. And so, you toss $100,000 to an organization like that, and, are they making an impact? Yes, they are. But then
$100,000 impact, probably not.
Yeah, right. And then I think a husband and wife team in Western Uganda, and what they do is they rescue girls from underage marriage and give them opportunities. And these people run on about $20,000 a year.
Right.
And so my question would be, or my thought would be, would $100,000 go better, to a huge organization in wherever, or to that husband and wife team that now of course they need to be held accountable and
because you give them $100,000,
right,
they're used to 20. That's a new problem.
That's a new problem, right? And I met a gentleman about 2 years ago, that a very wealthy guy, and he and his friends told me we give $100 million a year away to nonprofits.
Yep.
This guy is a philanthropist.
Yeah.
And the first thing out of my mouth to him when he said that probably wasn't what he was expecting. It was, do you have any idea how much damage you're doing giving $100 million a year away? Well, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Well, money can destroy a lot of things,
Right.
and create opportunities and make honest people dishonest.
Right.
I mean, it does here in our country too. It would to me.
Right.
Right. If someone's to start writing me checks left and right, I would struggle to maintain focus.
That's right.
And
once again, if you checked on me once a year and said, what are you doing with that money? I'll make the best newsletter you've ever seen in your life.
As I got time to do it. Yes, right.
And you'll think you spent that money wisely.
Right.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about there is why I think there is a need for an organization or someone to go invest these projects, someone to go and understand the complexities from very deep, from language, culture, understanding the need, like we talked about with the Bushmen. Is there a need? If a pastor comes to me in northern or South Sudan and says, I want to start fish farming, you live in the desert,
That's not gonna work.
yeah. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Well, is he doing that because he heard that's a good thing to ask for?
It worked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or we need to find solutions and work together with NGOs. I think before giving money,
Right.
to say, to align these affinities with whoever the donor is. For example, you had touched a little bit earlier on food aid or medical aid.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, there are situations that I am all for $100 million going for, AIDS medicine or famine. South Sudan, we were talking about Sudan. There's horrible stuff going on there right now in Sudan.
Yeah.
Thousands of people being killed. Yes, the pump money in there and let's make sure these mothers have shelter over their head for their children and food. Temporary, rescue type situations. But when it comes to giving money to organizations out there that are trying to make a change in the culture,
What does a change
yeah,
mean?
what is a change? And we need to dig deep and come up with solutions that erase the charity mindset, for one thing, and number two, create here I'm going to use that word, sustainability, or some sort of process that essentially they're phasing out the donor.
That's the part I don't understand is this is a bold statement. You've had a bold statement. Here's my bold statement. If you've been helped, the natural next thing is help the next guy, pay it forward.
Yeah.
And so when you sometimes see families that you give money to the family and then they're growing, you're like, well, why wouldn't the older kids give back to the younger if their life was so changed?
Right.
Pour back into the next generation.
Right.
But you don't do that when you know the West is going to send more money. You have no reason to be self-sustaining. It really is a problem. That's why we do what we do with the audits. It's an audit that's not to catch people. It's just to look and say, there's too much money going here, or that sustainability project is not authentic.
Right.
It's not. It's going to be empty. There's no chance.
Right.
And then let's don't build another one right next to it. That doesn't make any sense. Like, that's why you have to have boots on the ground. I am convinced that even a well-run machine nonprofit, which there are plenty, their audits aren't as efficient as they need to be because they're still working closer. They're close to the people, and there's just trust. Like, once again, no one wants to think of pastors being, inauthentic, but I mean, they can't be.
Right.
This doesn't mean they can't be.
Our goal should be to eliminate the need for foreign aid. Okay, so how do we do that? For one thing, governments need, and by the way, these governments in most of these African countries are wealthy.
Yes.
You go into the wealthy areas of Karen district in Nairobi, there are mansions in there, and it's all.
That's right.
The
money being sent by the government, if it trickled down, we wouldn't need to donate anything.
But do they put a water pipeline? Kenya is the size of Texas.
Yeah.
And Texas has an oil pipeline running about every 10 feet around this whole state, as well as water everywhere.
Yeah, that's right.
So why can't they put that kind of infrastructure in Kenya in the year 2025? Right. They could, but they don't. Right. Because more foreign aid comes in for water-related,
if they solve the problem, no one will give to the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so with that said, that needs to happen. And we need to shift our focus. And I'll give you an example. A gentleman came to our church a couple years ago. He's in Zambia, and he has, an orphanage that rescues kids. They're growing and doing well. And when he gave his story and was done, the pastor started praying and said, "Okay, we're going to pray for you." And he was praying for growth of this ministry in Zambia, and more locations, more structures, and it made me think we should be praying that it goes away.
Less. That's right. Pray for
We
less.
need, now there's always going to be orphans, and
That's
there's
right.
always going to be people in need.
Right.
But to continue to grow means that something is failing in
That's
the
right.
system.
You're making a business of something that doesn't need to be a business.
Right.
It should be looked at as temporary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if in fact there are more orphans now, for example, in Kenya, now than there were 25 years ago. Now, of course, we could say the population has tripled as well, but
Right.
the problem's not being fixed.
That's right.
Because I can guarantee orphan children in the United States, and I don't know the facts here or the numbers, so don't hold me to it, but I can guarantee there's less orphans now than there were in, say, 1920.
Right. Right. Should
You
be.
know,
If
yeah.
you're building the system right. It
Right,
should be.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and we have a foster system
That's
and
right.
things, which, by the way, they're implementing that in a lot of African countries
Oh,
as
wow.
well. That foster system.
You said something a minute ago. I'm going to change topics a little bit, and that is, you were talking about the sensitivity to the culture, the language, the country, and I want to dig into that a little bit because you were telling me something the other day that we make a lot of assumptions here in the West that everything's done the way we do it, meaning there's a ministry or a nonprofit over there. They don't really call it we call our side nonprofit. I don't know what the term for in every country is, but we make these assumptions of like, oh, if I'm giving this, if we're buying land so that we can grow a farm, if we're building this power plant or solar plant, that if that pastor dies, that it'll pass down. It's not true. Some countries, when that guy dies, his kids get the property, and everything you've been pouring into vanishes in a mist.
Yes, every country has different laws, and I won't go into detail here right now because I would want to have facts in front of me.
Right.
But yes, every country has different laws, what it considers a nonprofit or a charitable organization in the country that they're at. Sometimes the founder does hold the rights to property and things like that. I've learned, and sometimes the entity does. However, there are some countries, and again, I won't be specific because I'm not a lawyer, but there are some countries that 3 generations or 2 generations after a founder has a nonprofit, it reverts back to the grandkids and just weird stuff like that. It's a very complex, and I'm speaking in Africa. The whole world. We could be talking about Brazil or whatever, but we've been focusing on Africa in this talk. Bureaucracy is a real thing there, and they can create paperwork and a nightmare of little rules and odd, structures and things when it comes to forming a nonprofit.
Right. And once again, let's say I'm going to make this scenario up, but let's say somebody found a church that will sponsor them for 10 years. They were living high and they, were doing some good work. I'm not saying they were doing nothing.
Right.
We're not implying everybody takes a check and does nothing.
Right.
That happens, but it's rare than doing something. But let's say you bought the car, you bought the land, you did the thing, and then the well dries up, like meaning that church isn't funding you anymore. Well, then what? Then people are they can sell the land, they can turn it into a for-profit, and we're wait a minute, I thought we were. What happened to that thing we were doing? Nobody's looking, no one's following up, no one's putting procedures in. Well, I say no one. It's rare that people are putting procedures in place to help to hand it off or to be a success story, whatever that means.
Well, greed is a big thing, and it is here too. And not only greed, but the selfishness of a founder to a ministry tends to not want to let go of control. And they're the founder, and they have every right to have that. They
had the vision.
So over there, it's the same, and so secession, I guess, is what you're saying, or is a struggle. But you were talking about money drying up. There was a school built by a church in California up in the highlands of Kenya. Beautiful school with a swimming pool to teach kids to swim, and it was stolen from the church from within. The staff hired attorneys and got government officials to forge documents and essentially took this property away from them. The church. So the church said, "Fine, it's yours. We're not funding it," even though they built a multi-million-dollar thing. Last time I was up there, it is a private school owned by the people who stole it. They rent the swimming pool out for parties and weddings, and it's just they were able to sustain after the funding of the church left, but I don't think that was the intentions of the founders of whoever built that. And that happens all the time.
There's a lot of stories. I know of a case that it's a sad case, way worse than that. But a church was giving, I think it was probably India, wasn't Africa, and they just felt like the money was being wasted, and they sent a team over, and the guy got caught, and they were going to be gracious.
Yeah,
they were going to be gracious, and they confronted him. Said we'll meet you in the morning and talk about, and the guy killed himself that night.
Really?
Because he knew he was
up.
busted. It was his honor was gone. Wow. And they felt horrible. Like, what do we do? And I've thought about that a lot as you and I were talking about doing audits for people, just because there has to be cultural sensitivity. Mm-hmm. There has to be a way to maybe send a third party person over and not just put boots on the ground.
Yeah.
We can't keep sending money blindly.
Right.
It's a problem.
Well, and again, the idea isn't to go with intentions of wrecking people or finding
gotcha moment.
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, you can go grab my checkbook, and I'm sure there's mess ups in there of me balancing something wrong or forgetting something. So there's grace, and going over and saying, listen, you guys, we know you're doing good work. But we want to make sure, that the donors who are paying for this, that we're making sure that their money is going to a good cause and being truthful.
That's right.
Well,
even questions like this church or this foundation or this family is sending you $100,000 a year. What's your answer if that got cut in half next year? What if it was doubled? Hearing people's answers and being on the ground and, I'd build this or I'd fix this. Like, you and I have been around long enough, we can smell.
Oh, yeah.
You can smell
right.
the answer.
Yeah.
And just asking tough questions. And, it blends in with the cultural deal. Here in America, we frown on nepotism, like is your kids on the board, is your wife on the board, are your books closed or not? That's what those ECFA Guide Star is supposed to eliminate. But certain cultures, if your family's not on the board, something's fishy.
Right.
It doesn't mean you have to go and have a case by case basis based on cultural situations. There is no clipboard check sheet, and you've got to ask the right questions, open the right closets, look in the right doors, to then come back and say, I think that organization we could pour more into.
Right.
That's a good one.
And there are many over there.
There's many. It's not
doing
like all are bad.
Amazing things. Oh, of course.
And you wish they had more money. While there's others that were funneling money into. It's like, because you mentioned this before too. I know this side maybe better than you, but that side way better than me. But when you create the machine that gets donations, you need a story to tell to keep the money flowing. And so sometimes we not only sending money, but what we do to create the stories. We need more kids.
Yes.
We need more problems to keep the machine rolling, because we have overhead over here that we got to keep going.
Yeah, keep feeding the machine.
Keep feeding the machine.
I can't tell you how many times I've been in Kibera slum, Kawangware slum, at the river slum, different places, and seen their staff there struggling to find more children to sponsor and get stories. And to the point that they're willing to pay organizations that are already established there
I need that kid.
Yeah, to and again, this organization does a lot of great stuff too.
Sure.
But again, it's a machine,
Yeah.
and you know what? I don't like that. You know,
Either.
Again, that organization does. It's changed many thousands of children's lives.
Right.
So what did you do?
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's a problem. Well, let's don't stop. I know we focus a lot on Africa, but we're not just picking on them. This is true all over the world. You just have a lot of experience in Africa, which is why we landed there. But it's a heart problem, so the heart problem is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And blindly throwing money, which is what the West, but UK, Europe, Canada, US, Australia, we're all guilty of it.
Oh yeah.
We all throw money thinking money solves the problem, and it really doesn't. So at least we can be strategic and at least have some accountability to ourselves and to the people we're giving money to. We're doing them a favor.
Right.
Yeah. I want to end on this. You said a story to me the other day that you met a guy that was doing amazing things, and you said you were going to wake up the next day and make some phone calls and sort of tell the world, like, I found a guy. And then you told me, I paused because I realized that may ruin what he's doing.
Yeah.
And it's like, because that's our heart, is that, like, call me when you need something and I'll get you what you need.
Right.
But just don't pull him into the machine.
That was a gentleman who was a survivor of the Rwanda genocide as a baby. His whole family was killed. He was left for dead and found as a baby on a pile of bodies, wound up growing up, and now he is rescuing street kids and stuff. Amazing guy, and you're 100% right. I spent a lot of time with him and thought, man, I could help this guy. And I backed off, and yes, we've helped this guy, but not to the point we could have.
Yeah.
And he said a few things that made me refrain and kind of step back, as I was analyzing him, and he was answering questions of what he would do with, say, $500,000 US.
Yeah.
And I just realized that, and it's not up to me. I don't want to
right.
make it sound like I'm the keeper of.
We're not the keepers.
Yeah,
yes. Yes.
But I just kind of stepped back a little bit and thought, well, let's take it kind of slow, because.
Slow is good.
Yeah.
Once again, what do you do with a little?
Yeah.
What do you do with more? What do you do with more? And some people have had so much money, they look for ways to spend it.
Oh yeah, they have. Well, like you said, they have to create stories and create new ways to spend it.
That's right.
New fundraising.
That's right. We built this thing, and now we need a second floor. Now we need a third floor. Well, now we need a fence around it. Right. Well, now we need a water well for it, and then you're like, what? Why are we doing this? At the end of the day, U.S. oversight tools do what they are built to do. GuideStar, ECFA, and the paperwork audits, they do what they're supposed to do. They confirm the paperwork. But real accountability does not happen in the boardroom or by visiting a website. It happens when someone is standing right there in the dust, watching the money in action. That's the gap we're trying to close. If we want donor trust to rise and impact to match the stories we tell, we have to put eyes and boots where the dollars go. That is what Open Trust Global exists to do. See the work firsthand, ask the hard questions, and make sure every gift actually becomes the good it was intended to be.